All right, so yesterday we hop in Ryan's bus, throw in reverse, and
nothing. We're not going nowhere.
It was something.
Yeah, it was pretty loud.
It wasn't good.
No, it was not good. Nope. We got no reverse.
No reverse. So we figured, why not take this time? We're going to be changing the transmission anyway. Do a quick little video, show you a couple of tips and tricks. I mean, it's a bus, but some of the stuff crosses over to the Bug, and maybe a couple of the others.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll get it out, get it apart, show you a couple things, putting it back together, and that's it.
Yeah, let's do that. First thing we're going to do is remove the bumper and the rear apron.
Okay.
Get that out of the way.
Good.
Jack it up in the air. Take off the wiring, which is not a whole lot of wiring. A couple of wires. Get the generator, the oil, and the coil wire. That's about it. You don't even have to remember them. You can just, they're pretty simple to remember. If you can't remember, take a picture of that, and that always works for me.
Not much to it.
Not much to it, oh yeah. Lay those off to the side. Then next thing I do is I pop the distributor cap off to get the throttle cable off so I don't end up breaking everything. It's just easier to get that out of the way for me. It's not something you have to do, but it's just easier. Just pop that out of the way and pull the throttle cable off, get that out of the way, and then you're ready to go underneath of it. So what I do is I have a lift. So I put it up in the air, lower the whole bus down where the engine's just sitting on. I got a nice table cart thing that I use for this. Set the engine where it's just sitting on that cart. I remove the top 2 bolts and I climb underneath, remove the bottom 2 bolts, and then we just slide the cart right out. Engine and all, just slide the engine right out of the back of the bus, and now we're ready to do the transmission.
So now, if you don't have a lift, I mean, you can do it on the ground.
You can do it on the ground, yes. We're looking to have a lift here, but if you have to do it on the ground, which I haven't done yet, but
I have.
You have. Sure have. Motorcycle jack, they say, comes in real handy, and I can imagine they have that big flat pad, and you can jack it up and
get it underneath the motor. Keeps it pretty stable.
Keeps it stable.
So
it's not going to slide over, so you can slide it right out. Yeah, that would be ideal for this situation. You can get it out of there without dropping your engine. You don't want to drop your engine. That's bad.
So if you have 2 guys, you can drop the jack down, or your motorcycle jack, kind of
get it close to the ground.
Maneuver it off the jack.
Yeah, get the engine off the jack and set it on a piece of cardboard if you can. Or even now, you can just say you got a nice smooth ground, you can drag the engine up and down, trying to get it all out of underneath the car. If you got a car jacked up and the engine's still on the jack, it's going to be a little difficult because you have to have the car jacked up really high for that.
Yeah, you don't want, the lower you can keep your jack stands, the safer it is, obviously.
Yeah, so you don't want to do that. But just get the engine on the ground and just slide it out from under there, and you'll be good to go then.
What's next?
Next, we're going to take the training out. There's not much to that. We'll take off the axles. On my bus, all the buses that we do here, we convert to IRS, Beetle IRS actually. So the control arms are right off of Beetle. The axles are out of a Beetle. We use longer axle tubes, but the CVs are the same thing from a Beetle. So they're that triple square tool that you need to take those out. Take them off. You just take them off the transmission side. You can leave them hooked up to the wheels and just pop them out of the way. Keep the dirt out from those CVs. You don't want to get dirt in them. That's dangerous. After that, we're going to take off the shift linkage. On that shift linkage, it's usually safety wired together. There's two little square grub screws in that shift linkage. You're going to just cut the safety wire and unscrew those. I usually unscrew them both. You need to have the one off that's on the transmission side, obviously. The shifter side, you're going to have to take off. You don't really have to take it off, but if you don't, it might just make it easier to come out, and then you can deal with it on the ground depending on how long it's been sitting there. So
you should probably put the safety wire back on.
Yes, when you're done. Those grub screws come loose for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why, but that's why the holes are already in the grub screws for the safety wire. So
if you don't have the safety wire tool, can you still do it?
Yeah, you just use a piece of wire. It doesn't have to look fancy or nothing. It's nice when you have the right tools, but if you don't have the tools, just even a piece of coat hanger, you can run through there and twist that up just to keep those nuts from coming back out.
I always say, do the best you can with what you got.
Exactly.
So now we're pulling the transmission out?
Yeah, after that we got the clutch cable and there's a wing nut on top of that, at the end of that clutch cable. Take that thing off. Sometimes you need to use vice grips to hold the cable because you don't want it spinning. You could damage the cable if you let that spin. And I usually take off the bracket when you can that's bolted to that holds the boat into, that bolts to the transmission. Just unbolt it if you can. Some of the earlier trainees didn't have that, and it's all one piece, so you'll have to leave that on there. But it's fine too, either which way, you get it off. All right, next thing is we're gonna take out the 3 mounts. You got one up front, 2 in the rear, and just unbolt them from, unbolt them from the transmission side if you can. And the rear mounts, you just take those all, there's 4 bolts on each one, just take all 4 of them out. You'll have to do that to get it out of the car anyways, and back onto the new transmission, as long as your mounts are good. So take those 3 mounts out and grab a buddy, and you can do it by yourself. The transmission's not that heavy, but if you got somebody else there to help you and give you a hand, drop it on your head, that's nice. Pull it out. Put it on the ground. Put the new one in.
Just like that.
Just like what we got here, we got 2 different transmissions. Actually, they're the same transmissions. These are both Beetle IRS transmissions. My bus I converted when I put all this together to Beetle IRS, so with the hydraulics, the wheels don't camber in with the way swing axles do. So these transmissions will bolt right in. You don't have to do anything besides change the nose cone from the original split bus transmission. It'll bolt right on, that and the hockey stick. You just bolt them right into the Beetle transmission. So this being the old Beetle IRS with no reverse, I'm going to swap that one back to this one here. That's the Beetle transmission. You can see the shaft, the input shaft, comes in much higher on the Beetle than a bus. So that's the reasoning in doing all that. This is much further down than that one. So let's go ahead and get this thing off and swapped over. We'll drop the new training back in. Got the nose cone all cleaned up. You don't need to put a gasket around this. I just normally use silicone. I usually use the gray silicone when I have it. It seems to hold up the best. And another thing, this when you're putting this back together, you have to stick the hockey stick in the groove here where these shifter forks are. And if they're not already in neutral, where they're all straight like this, you want to move them, put them back in neutral before you attempt to put the nose cone in there. That way you can slide it in there and you won't have any issues and you won't get your transmission locked up before you even start. But just move these one at a time, and whatever one's in the wrong position, put it in the right position, and just take a little hammer if you need to tap it or pry it up with a screwdriver. But we'll go ahead and put silicone on this and put it down. Next thing we're going to do, swap the clutch out. You have to make sure you have the right clutch for the right transmission. There's 2 different ones, a later and a new. The later have a little sleeve that the throw-out bearing rides on. The older ones do not. The throw-out bearing just floats in there. Doesn't matter which one you use, they're both going to work just the same. You just got to make sure you match the clutch with the transmission that you have. And these been swapped out so many times. It's just because you have a 70 bug doesn't mean you're going to have a 70 transmission in it, so you need to look at what you're putting in there before you even go ahead and do that. So on the clutches itself, the later style does not have this ring, the newer style does, and that's important that you get the right part for that. So we'll go ahead and swap that out. We're also going to change out the pilot bearing in here. One of the easiest ways to do that is with soap, bar soap. And just cut some slivers. We'll press it up in here. I made a little bushing out of steel, just turn it down on the lathe that fits tight up in there. We'll just keep cramming the stuff in there, the soap in there, until we can hammer this in. It'll push it out, basically just like hydraulics. To put the clutch in, the disc itself has that, sticks out one side, it's flat on the opposite side. So the side that sticks out always goes towards the transmission, so the flat side will go inside. The kit always comes with a tool that goes into splines and goes into that pilot bearing, holds the disc in the center while you tighten everything down.